The following interview is between Greta Blackburn, founder of Fitcamp's, founding editor of Ms. Fitness magazine, and co-author of The Immortality Edge, and Dr. Joe Mercola, the renowned holistic doctor and pioneering internet superstar. For information about The Immortality Edge, check out the Facebook page. And for more information on all 100 is the New 50 projects, please go to www.maxlife.org. And now, Greta B. and Dr. Joe Mercola.
So, Joe, I got to jump in here. I want to lay a little context in a minute, but the first thing I have to ask is, how did Dr. Joe Mercola happen? I mean, when everybody else was 5 years old and you're playing with sleds and trains and wagons and cowboys and Indians, did you think, I want to grow up to be the world's top internet alternative holistic doctor? How did it happen?
No, I was always passionate about being healthy. I read Dr. Ken Cooper's book in 1968, and I think I was in 7th or 8th grade at the time, and got inspired to be healthy. And at that time, in the 60s, if anyone can remember back then, people weren't running around as an exercise. Exercise really wasn't very popular, and if you were running on the streets, you were considered a criminal. So I had lots of cans and rocks thrown at me during those times, and I was just really passionate about staying healthy. I studied nutrition a little bit, but realized, and I had a passion for science, and I wanted to actually was going to be an astronaut initially, but then I had some experience with the federal government in the United States and realized that collaborating with the military wouldn't be a good idea. Realized that pretty quickly, and I'm glad I made that decision. So I decided to go to medical school and pursue health, and I've always been passionate about technology and science, and just integrated both of my passion with technology and ability to and passion for health, and the combination was really providing a newsletter to help serve people and share the information I was learning.
So you're just hardwired for this.
Yeah, it seems like it. Basically circumstances. There could have been more, in retrospect, more efficient ways to get to this process, but it is what it is, and hopefully with technologies that you're advocating and embracing, the messing up with a few years here and there isn't going to matter, because we can add 10, 20, 30, 40 years or more of high quality years on the long end, which has not been available prior to human history.
Oh, wow, what a great segue into my next question. As you know, I'm the co-author with Dr. Mike Fossil and Dr. David Weinrosky of The Immortality Edge, and I'm also sort of pioneering a whole new movement, which we're just simplifying down to the phrase 100 is the new 50. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're really the big guy out there promoting total wellness, health, fitness. So I'm assuming that something like 100 is the new 50 isn't going to shake your boat too much. It's going to be something that you believe possible.
Well, it's not only believe possible, I'm counting on it. I mean, I'm going to be really disappointed if it's not. And and it's not idle speculation, considering the advent of technology. And I mean, it's pretty obvious that people can see the improvements we've had in computer technology. And Ray Kurzweil, of course, is the expert on this and really one of the leaders in the world in helping people understand this progression. But Moore's law and the increasing computing capacity by 50% a year or more, and the reduction in the cost by 50%, it leads to some pretty extraordinary technologies. And of course, it transfers throughout most of the industry. So.
Yeah, and speaking of technologies, and Ray Kurzweil, who did a little video presentation at something that I co-chaired, the Manhattan Beach Project, the think tank where you were one of the on the medical panel there. Mm-hmm. And of course, Manhattan Beach Project was all about opening up the possibility that we can demonstrate by the year 2029 reversal of aging in a human. And you spoke on the panel. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to assume from what you've just said that you believe pretty strongly that by 2029 we will be able to demonstrate reversing human aging.
Well, I don't know the specific time frame. I haven't studied it carefully enough to make an accurate projection, but I know at some point it would be, and hopefully it's in most everyone listening on this call to their in their lifespan. So I really think that we're going to see some improvements, and it's invariably and it's inevitable. There's just no question it's going to happen. The only real question is when, and I think my impression is it's going to be sooner rather than later.
And did you happen to see the Kurzweil piece in the recent Time magazine, with the
Oh, yes, yes.
yeah. So, and he's talking about the year where
The singularity.
immortality begins being at 2045.
Hmm.
So I think somewhere between Manhattan Beach and Kurzweil at 2045, we're probably in the realm of what we're talking about, the point
Absolutely.
at which we stop aging.
Well, I don't know that we'll stop, but we'll be able to repair the damage of aging, I
Which is
think.
along the lines of the Aubrey de Grey
Right.
Sens theory. Well, it's funny because I wrote The Immortality Edge and put together this team on the book because and you'll understand what I'm talking about. You and I are in fields where we have all of this stuff available to us. We're in the trenches with these guys. We go to conferences. We know what's available. And what the goal of the Immortality Edge was to get this word out to the mainstream. In particular, this is a prescriptive book on telomere biology, but it's one of the bridges. It's one of the pieces of the puzzle. But I'm wondering what your views are on when something is cutting edge, it's controversial. I know you've been in the middle of controversy. How do you get past it? How do you get people to believe it? I know that Mehmet Oz had you on to sort of bridge the gap between traditional medicine and alternative. What's the secret in getting this stuff on the radar screen so that people look at it in a way that isn't through the skepticism lens?
Well, there's a large number of reputable biologists and scientists who are working on this, so it's just a matter of presenting their information in a way that people can understand and really digest, and then take the fruits of that effort and apply it to themselves and offer it to them. I mean, I can't force everyone to apply this. I mean, there's a lot of good things that we know today that only a fraction of the people who really need to be using them are using them. So ultimately, it's incumbent upon the individual listening to it. And there's strategies, of course, of sharing information. That's one of the ways that we've become popular and really the leading health website out there, at least for natural health, and we're the third most visited health site in the world. So there's ways that you can communicate that with the technology and the internet. But ultimately, it's incumbent upon the individual to make that choice.
Yeah, I agreed. So we're here to talk about high intensity interval training, but I wanted to lay a little background because I believe it's part of this puzzle. This 100 is the new 50. This crossing the bridges that will get you to that other side where aging slows down, stops, possibly reverses. In the Immortality Edge, we talk about Phil Campbell, and I know that you. Actually, it's funny because you came to my Fitcamp. It was about a year ago now, and I was
Almost to the
curious.
day, yes. Well, a little bit less, but just about.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. That's total serendipity, I'll call it. How long when you landed in Cancun, was high-intensity interval training on your radar? To what degree was it, and how did that change out of working with Phil at the camp and your experience?
Well, I was aware of it primarily through the work of Al Sears, and sought to apply it from his recommendations, but they were just too nebulous and generic and not specific. And actually, I did develop an injury because I just started sprinting without proper stretching or building up to it. So I wound up tearing my hamstring attachment to my hip bone. And it's still kind of a nagging injury. It prevents me from doing things.
I've seen that happen if people don't enter into this kind of workout.
Yeah. So, but even in barring that injury, it's still he didn't provide enough details and had no information about the influence of growth hormone and the benefits of that, and just really, but prevented him from compelling arguments to use it. So I was sensitized to it, knew of it, but just didn't have a practical tool. But Phil was just I'm really so grateful for you and helping me connect to Phil and really providing a whole new revolution of exercise in my mind and helping other people understand this, because it's just so crucial to really improving your long-term health.
And I got to give a shout out to his. And I know you've got your workout component. Is it peakperformance.com?
No. I think it's peak.mercola.com.
Okay. So
but I don't know. You just type in Peak 8 Mercola on Google and it should come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we kind of stole the
It's
peak
Phil
eight from
Campbell.
him. I mean,
You know,
he started the sprint eight, and I didn't really want to copy that directly because we
right.
added some other elements to it, and it's not like we stole it or anything. He knows exactly what we're doing. So
Oh, I know. He's a good buddy of yours, and vice versa. And just FYI, his website for people who want to look into that is www.readysetgofitness.com. I've actually got a DVD coming out here pretty shortly, Figure Eight, which is for women, and it's a walk people through it. Sort of educational experience. But anyway, I'm wondering now that you got in touch with Phil Campbell,
mm-hmm.
you got in the trenches with this. If we were going to put a pie chart up on the wall and call it the health and fitness pie, what
mm-hmm.
piece of the puzzle would high intensity fitness training be? Would it be a 10% slice of pie? Would it be 20?
Well, do you mean the whole pie or the exercise
Of the whole
component of the pie?
Of the whole, well, you know what? Let's talk about just the whole pie. Is it going to be a little teeny sliver?
No, that's a good question. I would say it's somewhere between 10 and 20%,
That's
I would
where I
say.
got it. That's
Yeah,
where I peg it.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard to
agree.
say, but I think diet's more important because you can do perfect exercise, and if you're eating poorly, just hang it up. Don't even try it.
Agreed.
It's
Agreed.
just not going to work.
Well, that's the principle, or the thinking behind people who eat whatever they want and then get on a treadmill for 2 hours and think that that's going to
Hmm.
take care of business. It's just not, and it's particularly the kind of workout they're doing typically on a treadmill isn't going to do it either.
But it's an important part. I mean, in some ways, the question is like, what's the most important part of a car? Well,
Yeah.
if you don't have the wheels, and you don't have a steering wheel or the gas, I mean, you need all the parts.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so you know, and I mentioned that the Immortality Edge has this as sort of the key physical workout component of
Mm-hmm.
the anti-aging puzzle based upon telomere biology. So, obviously I and my co-authors believe that it's a bridge, just like telomere biology is a bridge, stem cells technology is a bridge that will help elongate life to get us to that point on the other side where
Mm-hmm.
aging dramatically slows, stops, or reverses.
Mm-hmm.
Our mutual friend David Kekich in Life Extension Express has a whole section on high intensity, and Phil Campbell and blah, blah, blah. So if we were going to say, would it be fair to say that high intensity interval training is an anti-aging workout?
Oh, there's just no question about it.
Yeah.
It's because it increases growth hormone. I mean, there's a large number of people who are using growth hormone therapy as part of their anti-aging protocol, and many of your listeners would know that it's not inexpensive. It's well over $1,000 a month, and it's a shot, and and it's not necessarily perfect because you're sort of forcing it on the body and producing it at levels that is outside of the feedback loop, so you may actually cause more harm than good.
Right. I'm wondering, and this is somewhat off topic, but maybe not because I don't know the answer to it yet. What current insight is the most important that you've gained that you would want people not to forget?
Well, health is key. We're at this point in time, at the beginning of 2011, we're going through some economic challenges, at least the United States is, and I think it's going to get worse. So that's an issue. If there's an economic collapse, it's difficult to stay healthy when you can't buy food, as we've seen in countries like Egypt and such. So, I mean, that's a big thing, and people need to see the big picture, so you have to make preparations for that. But with respect to health, I think the key is I think that, and really with this, in light of this conversation, I think one of the most important keys is to bust the aerobics myth that, I certainly fell under the influence of for well over 30 years, and thinking that all this cardio is going to be great, and it is good, but if you have a choice, you really almost don't need any cardio, and I've stopped pretty much most all cardio for over a year now since I started doing the Peak 8, and
Well, I remember your before and after pictures. You had taken pictures either at the camp or just before, and then
mm-hmm.
you sent me pictures, I think, 6 weeks later, 2 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it made a huge difference, and I was able to actually cut down the amount of time I was exercising, lose a lot more body fat, and gain muscle mass based on body composition analysis.
Well, let me ask you something. Having seen your latest, I believe it was your latest newsletter where you had the power plate demo.
Yeah, that's actually today's as we speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. We're talking high intensity interval training. I
Mm-hmm.
think power plate and vibration technology is great. Is there an intersection? Can we imagine an interval training on a power plate?
I don't think it's necessary. I never thought about doing that, but because they produce somewhat similar benefits with respect to growth hormone. And actually, I don't know many. I'm sure there's some, but there's probably very, very few people